Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmic Light Body Podcast. My name is Mark Abrams. The purpose of this podcast is to bring you practical, down-to-earth information on how to handle a spiritual awakening. If you've had a spiritual awakening or are going through the ascension process, you are aware of the fact that it isn't all bliss and glory. There are pitfalls and trouble spots and things that you need to get through in order to expand your consciousness. So the purpose of this podcast is to ground some of that information in a way that you can understand it to help get you through these pitfalls. Since I awakened in 2018, I have learned so much about the process. I've had the help of my spirit guide, ET guides, galactic energies, as well as deceased loved ones. And yes, I communicate with all of them. This all happened starting in July of 2018. So there is a process that we go through for ascension. It is happening on a planetary scale. So if you find that you kind of get stuck in the mud on occasion and need a little bit of help, I believe I can bring you a fresh perspective. So if any of this resonates with you, go ahead and follow the podcast. I am going to be bringing forth some episodes with some really cool stuff in it. How to connect with your guide, how to connect with ET guides, how to get centered, how to move past the trouble spots when a lot of that negative stuff comes up. How to handle energy, incoming energy. What do we do with it? How do we handle it? How do we learn to work with it? These are the types of things that I want to talk about in future episodes. So again, if any of this is of interest to you and you find that it resonates, go ahead and tune into later episodes. I promise there's going to be some wild stuff in them. But for now, this intro episode is an interview basically with my experiences since my awakening in 2018. So go ahead, have a listen, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for having me today. I'm interested in hearing what you have to say. I've been going through my own spiritual awakening, and I know we've had some conversations, and you've really helped me to grow as I'm going through my awakening.
Well, I appreciate you being here, and I'm excited to bring some information forth that I feel might help a lot of people. And it's just a very exciting time for me, and I feel like I'm finally getting to a place where I could step out with confidence and just know that I'm moving along my path and fulfilling and working my purpose for being here.
Can you explain to us how you got into all of this spiritual stuff?
Yeah, it's since I was little, as far back as I can remember, I've always been interested and fascinated with aliens and ghosts, spirits, things of that nature. I'd go see movies. One of my favorite movies is Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh, that's a good one.
Loved it. Totally resonated with me. Didn't know why at the time. Loved the movie. Had a lot of fear of the aliens at the end. But yeah, just that kind of stuff has always been an interest of mine, and I've always been looking for ways to try to connect with it.
Can you give an example of a paranormal event that you might have had before your awakening?
Yeah, a good one to mention, I think, probably is when I was in Door County. I don't know, this was probably 15 years ago. I remember being out at night, and we were in a place by the woods, and it was very clear sky, and I'm from the Chicago area, and you can't really see a lot of stars at night, but up there in Wisconsin, the sky was really, really clear. And I remember looking up and seeing what looked like two satellites moving in tandem together across the sky. And when I looked off to, I can't remember if it was to the left or the right at the time, there was a third one approaching from the opposite direction. And as that third one moved into parallel into the line of the other two, it shifted and completely started moving in the opposite direction, 180 degrees, in line with the other two, which what I thought were satellites at the time. That was eye-opening to me, and something that was certainly unexplainable.
That is unexplainable. That's very cool. Did you have an experience that which you could describe as a spiritual awakening?
I did. it's 2019 now, last July 2018. I was sitting by my pool. It was a beautiful day. It was 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. I had just finished working out. I was listening to music and my favorite band, Genesis, and just all of a sudden I felt a rush of energy and was essentially popped out of my body. And
wow.
I found myself in a space of just a space of immense energy, as almost as if I was in my own universe. And I just felt energy streaming through me, vibrating in every essence of my being. And I started getting flooded with knowledge, flooded with information, the nature of the universe, things like that. And it was just the most amazing experience. You can't even begin to describe it because there are no words that can carry the frequency of that feeling. So the only thing I could say is that it was the most amazing experience I have ever experienced. Nothing comes close.
And how did you know to trust that and that it wasn't a dream or some other event? How did you know that this was your spiritual awakening?
Well, for one, I was fully conscious when it happened. And secondly, it came with a knowing that this is something that I'm opening up to that was within me that I knew. So it's not that it was new from an awareness standpoint, from my 3D perspective here on Earth, but yet there was a knowing that this was knowledge that was inherent with me and that I had always carried it with me. It was just out of my perception until that moment.
But you had events that led up to this, correct? That this wasn't just a spontaneous event?
I did. Earlier that year, last year, 2018, I suffered a couple of losses in my family. The first one was my cousin who passed away. She was in her 40s, and then the next was my Doberman Maverick who passed away about a month later. And that was right before my family took a trip to Grand Cayman. And I remember when I landed in Grand Cayman, a song started playing in my head, and I thought it was really odd. It was "A New Day Has Come" by Celine Dion, and it's an older song. And that whole week I was in Cayman, I'm laying on the beach, and this song, "A New Day Has Come," kept repeating in my head. And of course I took note, thought that was a little odd, but came home from Grand Cayman, kind of let it go. And within that same week I got back, I was watching, I believe it was Sci-Fi Channel. They have a show on Ancient Aliens, and I was watching a show on the Akashic Records. And I thought, that really resonates with me. I really want to do a little bit more looking into that. I was talking about how Nikola Tesla had claimed that he had a connection with a universal intelligence, and that's how he got the information to come up with the wireless transmission of power. So I decided to do a little bit of research, and I went to Google, like most do, and I was looking for a meditation or something that would help me to connect with the Akashic Records. And I remember getting an email about a guided meditation to connect you with the Akashic Records, and I think it was a 10-part series. And I was not big in meditation. I have extensive martial arts experience, and I did some meditating when I was in martial arts, but I was never able to really get a handle on how do I quiet my mind and that kind of thing. So, but it was a little weird how this meditation came to me. So I figured, let's go with it. So I started it, and through the meditation, I was actually able to connect with my spirit guide. So with that, I understood the purpose of me receiving it and utilizing it. So I connected with my guide, and I was able to access an aspect of the Akashic Records. And my relationship with my guide got stronger and stronger and stronger over the next few weeks. And there was an incredible familiarity with him as well, which I'll get into in later videos. He's been around my entire life, and now I'm realizing and recognizing those points throughout my life where he had interacted with me, but I just was not aware of it. So I connected with him, and then shortly thereafter I had that event by the pool, which just opened everything up and changed me fundamentally.
Can you talk more about those changes? What can you expound on that? How you changed fundamentally?
Well, throughout my life, I would try. I was always searching for something. I would try something, and I'd get all excited, and then it just wouldn't. After a little while, it's like people would say, "Oh, you're getting bored with it already," and it just didn't resonate with me. This changed me in such a way, the spiritual awakening, that it has been all this ever since. I've read as much as I could. I've watched countless videos. There's a ton of great content, great providers out there on YouTube and such. They're all wonderful. This has been the driving force going forward, because this is leading into what I am here to do. This is what I knew, and this is my path, and I had no choice but to follow it.
That's really cool, because we search for something our whole lives, not really realizing we're even searching.
Yeah, I've had the feeling that there's just something there that I'm just not grasping. There's something that's going to come that's going to define what I am here to do. And then once this happened, unquestionably, this was the event that I knew, as I look back now, was coming. Wow. I have felt it.
Can you talk about some of the experiences that you've had since your awakening?
Yeah, after that spiritual awakening, I continued to connect with my guide, and he has helped me in immense ways. I've had loads of synchronicities. I'd have a thought, I'd go to the internet, boom, it'd be validated. I had situations where I saw UFOs. I had deceased relatives come in to speak with me, just seemingly out of nowhere. I'd be at work in my office, and they would appear. And they would appear with a message. I connected with my mom. My mom passed away last December. That whole event in and of itself is going to be an entire episode later. So if you want some mind-blowing stuff that would make Steven Spielberg's head spin, make sure you tune in to that episode when you see it.
Looking forward to hearing about that.
So I had my mom, I had my cousin that passed away, aunts, my grandfather who I never met, grandmothers, even my deceased pet, and actually 3 pets. Wow. I have connected with.
Wow.
So this has all been happening since this awakening, as well as triggering memories of my childhood and things that have happened while I was growing up that were actually connected to this on a multidimensional level. And now it's all kind of coming together and fitting like pieces to a puzzle.
Wow. It all sounds incredibly magical. Has it been easy along the way? Have you experienced challenges? You've talked a little bit about the childhood stuff.
It's the whole point. We're here in a magical time. This is a time of planetary and actually solar system and larger level, an ascension process. And to be able to be here to participate and to help in this process it's a great honor. And part of doing that and going through this process is having to dive into your pain and releasing these trapped emotions that are within your body. And in the beginning, it was a struggle. Things would come up, pain would come up, and I'd say to myself, well, I went through this amazing awakening by my pool. Why can't I get back to that feeling? And it becomes a quest to get back to that. And unfortunately, I know people tend to think, well, I just want to go there and be there, and that's not how it works. The path to getting back to that is to go into your darkness. The darkness, the inner pain and trauma that you've harbored and held and have not processed since childhood, and sometimes before that, comes up to be released. And it's been coming up your whole life, but we're living in a society where we're taught even shamed if we express our emotions. So in order to find the path to your soul, you need to dive into the darkness. And that can be very painful. And I have found, like I said before, a lot of great content on how to deal with things and what to do and tools when these situations arise. But I have found from a practical standpoint that when you're standing in the muck, you're in the mud, a situation came up, and you are just feeling these emotions, you kind of forget, or you can't access that information that you had when you were reading it 3 days later or listening to a YouTube video. So you're kind of like, what do? I don't remember what to do. How do I
So
shift?
what do you do? What do you do? Where did you get help? How did you make your way through it?
Well, you have to start by diving into the pain. And we're going to get into that in later episodes, specific tools and things that you could use to create small shifts in your vibration to turn your boat, as a good metaphor, towards, away from the current, to go with the current instead of into the current. And we'll work on that. And there's a lot of things that I learned, like the pain and such. I almost liken it to a child. I'm in a canoe, I'm in a boat, and I've got my child, which represents my trauma when I've been growing up. He's behind me in the boat. I don't acknowledge him, but he's turned the other way, rowing backwards. And I'm trying to move forward.
So counterproductive.
So what we got to do is we got to really turn around and face the child, embrace the child, process the pain, process these emotions so that we could take in more energy and more light and raise our vibration. And we'll get into more about how to do that in later sessions. There's loads of tools out there, different ways of doing that, and some may resonate with certain people and others may resonate. But basically what I've learned is it all boils down to the body and how in tune you are with your body. So we could essentially bypass a lot of that pain and suffering by catching it before these emotions surface in our external reality, let's say at work or in a relationship. We could kind of catch them before they come up to that point if we look to the body. And we'll talk about that in a future episode.
What else can we expect in future episodes? This all sounds super exciting.
Well, we're going to go into some tools and some work regarding that. I'm going to give accounts of some of the things that have happened to me. Like I said, those are definitely going to be very entertaining and mind-blowing, so you want to tune in for those, to those for sure. We're going to continue along this path, and what's going to happen is I plan on listening to feedback and getting information from the audience, and that will allow me to connect with topics that I resonate with and actually ground some of this information to be able to help people at this level. Because I want to get into more of the physicalness of ascension, how to really deal with it on a day-to-day basis. I mean, it's great to learn about it, in the theoretical aspects of it, but when you're living it and going through it, and you're facing maybe getting fired from your job or a relationship that's falling apart, what do you do? What do you do? How do you apply this? How do you find the direction that you're supposed to be headed in? And those are the types of topics that I want to
every
touch
day
on.
Is different. You feel different every day as you're going through
Every
this.
day is different, and the key is we have to learn how to go inside and be able to get in touch with how we feel, because when we're reactive and we're making our decisions based on those traumas, those fears, the anxieties, the emotions that are trapped within us, begging to be released, we're pulling down the opposite path. We're not in alignment with our guidance, and these are the things that I want to bring forth.
Well, we'll be looking forward to those exciting new episodes coming our way. Thank you for having me today.
I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Really, really interested in your perspective on this.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Cosmic Light Body Podcast. Please click the link below to subscribe to the podcast. Additionally, if you found that this information resonated with you, please go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button. I will be posting unique content frequently related to spiritual awakenings, ascension, and enlightenment, as well as ETs and other fascinating topics that you will find nowhere else on the web. Please go ahead and click subscribe and have a wonderful day.